Welcome along to the Lifting in Life podcast. I'm Cam, I'm the host, and today I'm chatting to Sam Tanner. Sam is a 1500 metre runner from New Zealand, and he's represented NZ at the Olympics twice, as well as competing in the Diamond League Athletic Series. In this episode, we chat about Sam's experience at Paris this year, and then we go over some specific training and racing strategies that he uses. And then he shares some crack up stories about his time racing all around the world, and then also about all of the hobbies that he's into when he's back home in NZ, which ranges from like kite surfing to snowboarding, skating, building. Yeah, he's a really interesting dude, and I really enjoyed this episode. As always, I appreciate you tuning into the podcast, and any support you can show goes a long way, and it helps me continue getting these awesome guests on. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and remember, you make you. And we're live. Sam, thanks so much for joining me today, bro. We made it happen. I obviously watched your performance at the Olympics. I'm mates with Hamish and Hayden, and I feel like I've been following you for a little while, so it's awesome to have you on today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. It's been a bit of a mission get me on here, eh? But it's cool to see your face and chat to you today.
It's honestly like, it happens all the time. Like, I've done 50 plus episodes now, so many of them people have like missed them, can't find the link to the studio. Like, it happens almost every time, so it's just
sending
kind of
emails to my spam, G.
yeah. That's my bad, bro. That's my bad. It's like BAU stuff now, but we're here. And where I thought we could start off, obviously the Olympics was only, what was it, maybe 6 weeks ago or something like that now. Yeah. And
Eesh, that's gone quick, eh?
Yeah. We're what? Not quite the end of September, but we're getting there.
Yeah, late September for sure.
Yeah. And that was your second time at the Olympics, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Tokyo 21 and then Paris 24.
Yeah. And in terms of the Olympics this year, what was your mindset like going into it, and how did you feel pre-race? You know, what was the mindset like going into it?
Depends when you're talking about going into it, what time period, because months before, like months and months, probably the start of the year, my mindset was, I'm going here to compete and to be a competitor, not to be a spectator or just another number on the page like I did in Tokyo. But the closer the games got, and the more banged up I was, the more I was like, man, I'm going to have to just do what I can here, which in some ways took pressure off, but other ways was kind of a headache, you know, to think about how much training everyone else was doing. And honestly, it felt like every day that I wasn't running or wasn't training to the best of my ability on the ground, it felt like everyone else was taking a step ahead. And so I was just like, another day behind, another day behind, another day behind. And so the mindset changed quite a bit over the 6 months or so leading into the Olympics. But, you know, when I stood on the start line, it was just about forget all of that and let's pretend I'm fit right now, and then just race. And I did some testing after the Olympics and found out my Achilles was significantly down in power, even though it wasn't necessarily sore, because it wasn't necessarily sore while I was running, but it was heaps down in power. Like, you wouldn't believe, 20+% on one leg was just like gone. So I was like, that makes sense of why it was so freaking hard. It was, still cool opportunity. And I guess I just had to pretend that I wasn't broken, or I wasn't one of the slowest guys there. And I think I didn't lose, so there we go.
Man. That's the thing. And sport is just such an interesting one. And one thing you're kind of getting at there, and some of that would be based on data, but it's almost like these stories that we can start to to tell ourselves almost are the thing that we start to stress about. Like if I don't train, the other guys are getting way better. And, part of that probably is a little bit of fact there, but a lot of that is the story that you're telling yourself, right? How do you sort of manage those stories and that self-talk? Like there, when you said when you were in the race, you're like, nah, forget about that. Let's pretend I'm 100%. And that's kind of the story or the perception. How do you manage those perceptions or those stories?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. For me, I think faith comes into it a lot actually because I believe in miracles, and I had some crazy, crazy miracles in my life. Like this funny side note story. I got into a fight with my brother when I was 17 and punched him in the back of the head. Because he got grumpy, he lost it at me, and then anyway, just brotherly love.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyway, I broke my knuckle real bad, and actually, you can still see it's. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see in the camera,
dang.
but it's down. This one here.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was. Oh, I was going. It was like proper broken. Went to the specialist, and he's like, "Yeah, you can either leave it or get surgery." I was thinking, "I'll just leave it as long as it heals fine. It's fine." Went to school the next day, and I got my mates to pray for it. And on the third time, they prayed for it 3 times in a row, and on the third time, my hand went hot, and it was just like fully healed.
What?
And I was just like, "Oh!" And so I'm a big believer in miracles and that anything can happen. And I kind of approach it in that sense of just being like, look, I'm here. I'm just going to do everything I possibly can in my power to
Mm.
run the best race I can. And in that sense, it takes a lot of pressure off, and a lot of anxiousness can just leave, just go, and it kind of allows me to run quite free.
Yeah.
In saying that, some races are not necessarily like that, and often you do have those thoughts, especially mid race, like creep into your head, going, "Oh, you haven't been doing the training," and you're like, "Oh." So sometimes it's just a lose lose, but it's yeah, that's kind of how I try to at least to approach races when I know I'm maybe not in the best shape.
Yeah. Well, it is amazing how this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. Is funny side story as well. We went camping, like wild camping up in the Lake District here in the UK.
Sick.
And like there was like sheep around. It was quite windy, and in the tent at night, you're like, "Oh shit, what was that?" Oh, there's the other people like, "Was that a sheep? Is a sheep going to trample our tent or something
Yeah.
right now?" And I just started to think, wow, you're like, your whole life is perception. I'm
Oh yeah.
building all of these stories right now, and they could be completely untrue. It's probably just like a bit of wind that's blowing the tent fly or something, and it's like there
Yeah.
isn't sheep about to run us over, or there isn't
Yeah.
anyone out there. It's all of these stories. So it's a powerful thing, man. Like the things that you tell yourself and the stories that you are going over in your head. That's almost what defines your reality in a way, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what makes, when you put it in like an athlete sense, that's what makes someone, super strong mentally or super weak mentally. Someone who will break because they see someone else who might be better than them, or they see a skill or a strength that someone else has, and then be like, that targets an insecurity that I have about my own fitness, or a doubt that I have about my own fitness or my own ability to perform. Like you could put me and Stewie on the start line together, and you run 2 different races, literally 2 different distances, and Stewie would be like, "Yeah, well, I got the strength," and I'd be like, "Well, I got the speed." So it's like if he backs his strength and I back my speed, then we're both going to be mentally up at the best of our game. But then
Yeah,
if he starts going, "Oh, but Sam's got so much pace," and I go, "Oh, well, Stewie's stronger than everyone here," like it's going to be, we're both down, bringing ourselves down to this level. So it's like
yes,
it is, honestly, people don't realize how many mind games go on within, not like direct mind games between athletes, but how many mind games go on inside an athlete's head, that enables them or disables them to race well.
yeah. It's like you're looking for the thing you want to see, and is that
Yeah,
thing you want to see something that is making you weaker, or is it something that's making you stronger? It's
yeah,
almost like, I don't know, if you're conducting an experiment, that would be called confirmation bias. Like
yeah,
you're looking for the thing that you're
yeah,
wanting to see.
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
and
that's an
and
interesting
have you
point.
seen the Sprint documentary
Yeah,
on
started
Netflix?
watching that
I'm
series. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that is why someone like Noah Lyles is so good, is
yeah,
because he doesn't. He's almost so self-absorbed that it's like his whole world is him. He's the only
yeah,
person in his whole world. Everyone else is a side character.
hmm
And I'm like, oh, it's like, it makes you sound so unbelievably cocky. But
yeah,
I'm like, honestly, it's kind of a recipe for success. And so when I look at him, I go, man, how can I be humble in character and show charisma and be relational with all my mates and other runners around
yeah,
me, but also have that like game on mindset
yeah,
and practicing enabling the switch when the gun goes off. No one's your friend here, and we're here to race. And so
yeah,
like that's a really hard thing to do. I struggle with it a lot sometimes, and you know sometimes it doesn't happen like as well as you'd like.
hmm
So it's all right.
yeah. And when it comes to those sort of, I don't know, cherry picking characteristics from others, I think the only flip side of the potential negativity of it is what is going to come along for the ride if you
Yeah,
were a little bit. If I was 20% like that,
yeah,
how is that going to affect you, and what else kind of comes along for the ride when you
yeah,
are wanting these
yeah,
other characteristics? What if that would make you blind to areas that you could improve on because
yeah,
it's all you, it's your world. I'm the best. And then it
yeah,
makes you blind to the things that other guys are maybe doing better. But
totally.
yeah, if you could have like 20% of that, yeah, I see that, man. Yeah, he is he's a character, man. I haven't watched all the series. We were probably a few episodes in, but yeah, man, he's a character.
Oh, it's
Going,
yeah, it's funny to be around him. I love him, love
yeah,
it.
oh yeah, of course, because you would have actually been around them. What is it
Yeah.
like being around those athletes? Like when you're, I don't know if you wouldn't call it backstage, but warming up, that kind of stuff. Like, what is
Oh,
it
kind of.
like being in that atmosphere?
Oh, I guess it kind of is backstage. Like literally, I'm like, if you watch in the Netflix film, I'm actually in it. But
Are
like,
you?
just I'm like, yeah, but only like half a second in the elevator, or like
Yeah,
running past in the background at like a Diamond League. And so it's just like I was in Silesia Diamond League, so the one where they filmed the girls,
yeah,
Shikari and one of the others. Um, like I ran past a couple in a couple of scenes, but like it's so quick that it's so hard to see. But unless I'm like, oh, I remember this moment because I was watching them
yeah.
whilst running past. And so
Whoa.
you ask what it's like to be around them. It's kind of cool, but somehow feels weird because you're all at the same level, right? Like you're all often give non-runners the Formula One example. Like you're at the Diamond League, that's the F1.
Yeah,
You're not Formula Two or Formula Three. You're at the Diamond League. You're at Formula One. But in Formula One, yes, there's a couple of superstars, but all the drivers are like absolutely praised.
hmm
Whereas like you can go to a Diamond League and not know half the people there.
yeah,
There's a couple of superstars, but there's usually only one or two superstars in each race. And
hmm
then there is the kind of like friggin' good athletes, but there to fill numbers. And
yeah.
so it's often like, oh wow, it's really interesting because the I don't know, it's just fun to be around them. You make friends with some pretty famous people and then also yeah, just feel a little bit ignored. I want to say by
Oh yeah,
others. I've had some
yeah.
pretty rude interactions. Actually, I don't know if you've listened to one of my other podcasts, but I've had a really crazy interaction in one
Did
of
you?
my
I don't
hotel
know if I,
rooms. But
I don't know if I heard that. Do you want to tell the story again, or you don't want to tell the story again?
I can tell the story. It was a athlete from a South American country, and he
Yeah,
was a 110 hurdler. I won't single him out in case he's listening. Um, but he pretty much went I'll give you the rundown. He went nocturnal for 3 days, and so was awake all night. Went out on the piss. Like
oh
I'm
shit,
99% sure he was fully smashed when he
yeah,
woke up in the morning. Oh no, woke up in the evening after he'd been out all night. Um, and signs were empty pizza boxes sprawled out, burger boxes and fries and stuff just all over the you know kitchenette kind of stuff in the Diamond League hotels. And he was my roommate. He flooded the bathroom like fully, like it was like this much water. I walked in there at like 6 o'clock in the morning to like go toilet, and my feet got soaked, and I was like, "What the heck?" Because obviously the lights are off, and then I turn the lights on. I'm like,
Oh, man.
it's like I'm just gobsmacked. I'm like, how did
this happen?
Become like 20 mil of water covering the whole floor?
Yeah.
So weird. It's not draining.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a couple of like soggy towels on the floor. And anyway, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is he after the race. No, before the race, he wakes up at 5 p.m. His race is at like 6 or 7. Right? Wakes up after being asleep all day. Wakes up at 5 p.m. Goes straight, doesn't get any food, straight to the bus. Get on the bus, goes and races. He comes second last, so I'm like, understandable. You prepared like a rookie. And then comes home and he goes, "Hey bro, like I'm gonna try sleep tonight, like whatever," because he speaks very little broken English.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try sleep tonight, and I just kind of like laugh at him and go, "Yeah, bro, like okay, whatever," like as if kind of thing. And because I'm like, dude, you've just raced, you're like high as on probably caffeine and adrenaline,
Yeah.
and your sleeping pattern is stay up all night.
You've been asleep all day.
I'm like, bro, your body's just waking up.
Yeah, you're just getting going.
And so this guy, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I've done some bombs in the lake with a couple of Kiwi lads, and then come back, try to go to sleep. And this guy is like lying there, lights are off. I'm trying to sleep. I'm still wired as. Probably not going to go to sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. I've kind of just accepted that fate. And the guy just starts like being real agitated, and I'm like, what's that sound or whatever else? Essentially, long story short, he is pleasuring himself in the bed next to me.
No way. What?
And he's this far. The bed's this close together. That's not an exaggeration. Like you can barely stand up between the beds. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
I do not know what to say here. And so anyway, I'm like, well, I got to leave. I got to do something. And so this is because this is not okay. And he's trying to be discreet, but he's not really. And I'm trying to give him all the signs that I'm awake. I'm like yawning, doing the fake cough, like rustling over, rolling around, and he's just like, he's like, and then like, you know, I'm not going to do all the sounds. But anyway, I'm like, get to one point, and I do like I'm on my stomach, and I do a full. I'm looking this way. This is the window, and he's on this side, and I like fully push up, and I look at him straight in the face, and I go, "Mate, if you're gonna have a wank, go to the bathroom." And he's like, acts innocent. I'm like, bro, you've been caught literally with your cock in your hand. I'm like, you can't fake that. Like, don't act like an idiot. And he's like, what does wank? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I said it again, like quite in your face aggressively. Like my dad always says, if someone's losing it at you, lose it at them harder, and they're gonna freak out. Yeah. And so I'm like freaking losing it at this guy, like yelling at him from this far away. And he's like kind of startled, but he's he's like, what? I'm like, if you're gonna, so I say it slowly, if you're gonna wank, you go in the bathroom and watch some porn. And he's like, I still don't understand. And I says, speak slow. And then I'm like, freaking, I'm gonna have to do some hand gestures. Yeah. So I'm like, mate, if you're gonna have a wank, go to the bathroom. I'm like yelling at this dude from like point blank. Anyway, that was he wasn't a super famous guy. I mean, maybe in his country, but anyway,
that's insane, man.
I don't know if there's been many stories like that, but that's a story in the Diamond League that does happen apparently. I'm actually, in some ways, I would have rather him just bring a girl home. And then I'm like, well, at least I can just leave, you know? Like,
yeah. Maybe he liked the like risk element of it or something, you know?
Yeah. I'm like, what? I don't know. Wow. So that was an adventure.
That's an adventure, all right, man. That's insane.
I bet you weren't expecting that on the pod, eh?
No, I wasn't. I thought it was going to be like you guys had a fight or something, or
yeah, no, he was a 6'5" black dude, and
he wouldn't want to fight.
Here's the hint: he knew Brazilian jiu-jitsu for sure.
Oh, well, yeah. You probably wouldn't want to
I
fight
was
that
like,
guy.
I
You
was
got to
like, I'm
go in
not,
with the crazy, right? You have to
yeah,
go in
I'm
with the
not going to
crazy.
take this guy on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did think about it for a very split second, but I thought against it. I did jujitsu for 3 months, so
Yeah.
or maybe a bit longer than that. But it's,
You would have had him then. I reckon you would have had
yeah,
him.
just choke it.
Just taken by surprise.
Yeah, put him an armbar. I
Yeah.
actually did jujitsu with this girl once, and we were sparring and put her in an armbar, and she had double jointed elbows, and so her elbow was just like
Oh, yeah.
fully going like this, and I'm like, oh, I've just broken her arm. I've just broken her arm, and the guy
Like,
comes
why
up
are
to
you
me.
not tapping out?
Yeah, I'm like, why? Yeah, tap. You're supposed to tap, man. And the guy comes up to me, goes, she's got double jointed elbows. You're gonna have to try something else. And I'm like,
Whoa.
oh, freaking idiot.
Damn, that's like a superpower for
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
it was.
Damn,
I
bro.
was shocked. I was all freaked out too, actually.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway, sorry. Back to the
yeah.
running content.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, you kind of segued us a little bit. You sort of mentioned there almost all the things you could do to have a bad race, like go out the night before, eat heaps of shit food, wake
Yeah.
up 2 hours or an hour before the race. But what about the opposite? What does it look like to set yourself up for a successful race? What are all the things that you do that go into setting yourself up for success?
Mate, that is a really good question. That
Thanks.
is
Yeah,
really, really good. That I've never been asked that question before. That is a cool question. Um,
and it segued from
it
your
did. It
story
was
too.
smooth. It was smooth.
Damn.
I think the couple of key things that I do is well, it's actually pretty boring. It's pretty lame.
That's all
It's
right.
real
If
lame.
it works, it works.
It work. Yeah, it's just you just lie in bed all day, sleep and rest as much as possible. That's really the
So he did do the right stuff then.
yeah, I guess so. But he
Yeah.
rest. Oh, he actually did. He rested in the daytime too.
Yeah.
But anyway, he. We're not talking about him anymore.
No.
What I do is, yeah, just rest. I have like my go-to is like a 40 minute nap. Maybe like I try to nail one sleep cycle, which is probably a bit theoretically wrong. Probably shouldn't do that. Probably should be like a 20 to 30 minute nap. But I try to nail one sleep cycle, and sometimes I wake up and I know I got it right, and I'm like boom, and I've just absolutely wired from the time I wake up all the way until I race, and so I probably do that like 4 hours before my race. And there's a couple of food things that I try to get a routine in. I think the biggest thing for listeners who want to nail their pre-race routine or perform their best is actually just routine is always best. So whatever you do in training, you can do that obviously plus a few more things that you wouldn't do necessarily on a regular training day. Like for example, I'm a shocker when it comes to like I've got to work out at 4 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, it's sweet. I've got to work out at 4. I've got all day to like smash out some jobs, and so I'll be like actually pretty tired when I get there.
Yeah.
So don't do that. But yeah, I've got a couple of things. Like I've got a sub 2 before performance supplement, blackcurrant powder that I have before. It actually looks so funny because it's obviously really dark red. Looks like
Yeah.
blood, and I'm like,
Oh.
I'm like just shaking this like
Damn.
container, and it looks like I'm taking some dodgy drugs, but it's literally like Ribena. If
Yeah.
anyone's ever had Ribena, it's like
Yeah.
New Zealand blackcurrant berries.
Yum.
Like this, it's like the most single ingredient supplement there is. Anyway, so I do that like an hour before my race.
Mhm.
But yeah, hold on, I'm just gonna move so my flatmate can make dinner. All
So
right, sorry about that. We're back
so
on.
you drink your blackcurrant blood. Is there
My
any
blood,
other
my blood.
subs food?
Yeah, This is funny. When I'm in New Zealand, I'm a big fan of potatoes,
Oh yeah,
and so
nice.
I probably because I'm Irish or part Irish, but my dad got me into that ages ago. Actually, this is one weird thing. I haven't done it in a while, but I actually want to because I always race so well off it. Is baby food,
Baby
like
food.
baby food, like puree baby food,
Damn.
and that
Any
was
specific flavor that's your go-to?
yeah, pear, banana, and blueberries.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is actually really good, and so I smash that usually 2 hours before I race.
Yeah.
And the other thing now that I've started using is the Morton bicarb, which I think a lot of athletes are using, but and I'm 50-50 whether it works or not. I know I've had some good races on it and also
Yeah.
some average races on it. So
What is
um,
it, like a carb powder or something?
it's a bicarbonate lactate buffer.
Oh, right.
So it just buffers lactic acid when you're, um, I guess, training at that or performing at that, you know, level where your body is like, can I clear it? Can I not? So it just delays the onset of lactic acid, I guess, which is
Interesting.
awesome because it means essentially you don't fatigue as noticeably hard as quick.
Yeah.
You still will fatigue, but I think you can push quite hard through it.
Especially because you're going so fast too. Like it
Yeah,
might be relevant to more longer distance athletes, but like your
yeah,
distance, you're
yeah,
boosting it. So
yeah.
lactic
I
acid
think
would be a
the
definite.
biggest thing is like a 5K. I think would maybe I don't know. I'm sure the 5K would have more like the more time your body has to produce lactic acid. I'm sure the buffer would work better.
True.
Um, yeah, but anyway, that's what I
Mm.
do, and then I've got a pretty simple warm up routine. I do pretty much an hour out under pretty much all circumstances before my race start is when I will warm up. Some guys go an hour before call room. Some guys go an hour 10 before race start, and all there's a bunch of different weird things. But essentially, I'll do an hour out before race start, and then um, if it's really hot, like 30 degrees or 30 degrees plus, then I'll shorten my warm up, and I only jog like 15 minutes
Yeah.
max, 12
Yeah.
minutes sometimes.
Dang.
Um, but yeah.
And what about the psychological elements of warming up? Like, is it a ritual for you? Do you have any superstitions that you do? Like, do you listen to music? You don't listen to music? Do you, I don't know,
Mm.
visualize the race strategy? Like, where's your mind at pre-race?
You're making me think maybe I should be doing some more stuff. That's actually that sounds quite good. Like visualization would be good. I don't really do that. I think I do that a lot during the day.
Yeah.
Like in terms of visualization and tactics, and any sort of mental prep, I do in the day. And it's funny, I wake up the day of a race, and my body knows it's race day. Like it
Hmm.
knows without a shadow of a doubt that it's like it's gonna be taken to hell and back this
Yeah.
afternoon or this evening or whatever time the race is. And I just everything clears out, everything goes. I go full adrenaline. Like anytime I start thinking about the race, like my body can just, my heart rate rises, and yeah, so it's pretty crazy in that sense. But soon as the I step foot, soon as the time comes to step foot onto the warm up track, it's pretty much like I don't think, I just do, and it's pretty
Yeah.
ritual. I go 15-minute warm up, couple leg swings, couple strides, couple drills, boom, put the spikes on, go in the cool tent, go for it, which is kind of
Yeah. Like
nice
your body
because
just knows what to do, right?
yeah, yeah, I get the
Mm.
most nervous before I warm up. That's my peak
Yeah.
nerves is right before I warm up. But as soon as I start warming up, I'm good. Like it's effortless, which is great.
Yeah. What about the actual? Maybe it's more like sprint something, but that start line, like when I watch like 100 meter sprint, I'm like almost nervous for them. You
Yeah,
know when
yeah,
you play like hide and seek as a kid, and you're like,
yeah,
you got those nerves like, oh shit, they're gonna find me. It's almost like that
yeah.
kind of feeling where your arousal is so high, and that's only watching it as a spectator. Is it like that for you on the start line too, or is it a bit different because your race isn't gonna be 10 seconds? Like, where are the nerves at on the start line?
Um, I honestly, I think the nerves for the spectators are way higher. I find it
Yeah,
way harder watching running races than I do racing them. Way
interesting.
harder. An unbelievable.
Wow.
Like it's not even comparable how much harder I think it is. It's because when I stand on the start line, all I'm thinking about is like a couple of key things, and those key things change whether it's like get into position or hold your position or like relax, 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 relax. Like if I know it's going to be fast, it's all just like get out hard and relax and don't think because like just
Mm.
or sometimes I've said if it's like a longer race, just hold on, hold on, hold on,
Yeah,
and do not let go. As soon as you let go, you're stuffed. And sometimes you watch like old races and you go, I didn't let go, but the guy in front of me let go, and by the time he's let go, you're stuffed because
True.
you're blown up.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then there's also the mental side of things once the gun goes off. But yeah, when you're standing in the start line, I personally am not too phased by everything else that goes on. That's why if you like watch a bunch of my intros, I can kind of switch it on, switch it off, like
Hmm.
um, charismatic mode kind of thing, where I do either pukana or
Yeah.
a wave or something cheeky to the camera, and then all of a sudden the camera goes past me and I'm back to just looking down to the 100 or 200 meter mark.
Yeah. Wow, that
Yeah,
is so funny that you find it more nerve-wracking watching rather than participating. Like I obviously don't participate in those races, so it's so funny that
well,
you even as an athlete like watching it, it gets you more heightened too.
oh, it's
Damn, that's
nuts. The
funny.
1500 fun. I was literally. I don't think I think I held my breath like half the race at least to it. Like, well, probably the whole race. It wasn't that long. Like,
Yeah, a few
like
minutes.
I was sitting in the stands with my hand on my head, just going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening." And I
Mm,
literally called it. I was like, Jakob's lost it with like a lap and a half in. I was like, nah, he's not winning. Like, he's definitely not winning. And I don't know, but I didn't expect fourth to be honest, but that was so cool to watch. Like,
yeah.
I feel for the
Uh,
dude because he went so hard, and he's just not not the best guy on the day.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like with your amount of race knowledge, you could call that probably quite early because you just know the
Yeah,
distance and the pacing and the strategy inside out that you would just see all the little signs, right?
yeah. Well, it even comes down to like the split. Like his 200 meter split was like pretty fast, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, that might come back to bite him in the butt a little bit later. And the fact that everybody else was like half a second slower, and you think, oh yeah, half a second here, there. Nah, because you crossed that line too early. Goodbye. Like, you're
Yeah,
stuffed. And it's not necessarily that you're stuffed that you blow up, but it often what I have found is that you cross that line too early, and your kick is just like gone. Like, you
mm,
think you like, and so often I, well, it's hard to say this year. Like, if I watched my race the other day and watched it back, and coming off the bend, I was like with Jakob, and I was going, "Oh yeah, sweet, I got another couple of gears," which usually, like last season, would have been there because it was only a 3:36 race or something, and there was just no gears there, and I was like, "What the heck? Like,
yeah,
where are my legs right now?" So that was a strange feeling, but it was, like watching those races, you know what people are feeling because I've
yeah.
mostly been in most of those situations now, which is kind of cool.
What is the strategy for a 1500-meter race? It's such an interesting distance, right? Like it's not a sprint, it's not a long endurance thing where you're running for 3 hours or 2 hours, but it's like I guess you would call it middle distance. Like it's that interesting kind of middle distance. How do you strategize it? Like, do you go, okay, I'm going to run the same pace the whole race, or is it I'm going to try get to the front of the pack, hold on, maybe taper back, and then speed back up? Is it? I don't know. I suppose maybe it's dependent on the race, who you're racing, all that kind of stuff. But what does the
Yeah,
strategy for the 1500 meters look like for you?
I think if you were to generalize it, it would be who can save the most energy and be in the best position with 200 meters to go. Because on
True.
a world stage, everyone can close pretty similar.
Hmm.
Like, at least the last 400 meters, you might be within like half a second of the first guy. But the first guy, generally speaking, would have been in a better position if you didn't, like, say you were last with 400 meters to go and you end up coming fifth. The
Yeah.
first guy might have been in fifth and he won it
Hmm.
because of his positioning, but he might have just been able to stay in position and relax better. So that's how I would say, if I was to like get it right, that's what it would be. It'd be the person
Yeah.
who can use the least amount of energy holding like one of the top four positions. It depends on obviously how fast the race is. If it's flat out, sometimes you can afford to be back a little further because you know that some people are going to hurt because they've
Yeah.
probably paid the price a little bit too early. But if it's steady and it's right on it, say for me, it's probably like 56.57. If that's the pace, you want to be up the front
Yeah.
because the guy at the back, is still running the same pace as you. He's just got to pass 10 guys to get to the front. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
kills you if you've, and often that's something I'm still learning and I'm something I'm trying to master. But yeah, I sometimes I go back and watch some of my race. I go, oh, what was
Yeah.
I thinking? Like, why would I, why would I give up that position? But the interesting tactic side of things is, I'll give you a little insight into my brain,
Mm.
is when you're in the race, there's always a scenario when there's an easy option or a hard option. So, for example, if I'm running the bend and a gap on the inside opens up, that's the easy option because you get to run less distance. And theoretically, that's better. But the
Yeah.
hard option is hold your position so that you can go around when people slow down.
Right.
But your body doesn't want to do the hard option, but you should probably take the hard option because if you go on the inside, everyone's going to pass you or box you in. Then you have to go to the back, out, and all the way around everyone. And you're not, and your body tells you, yeah, you can pass them like that. Yeah, you can do it. No, you
Yeah.
can't. You're not like in New Zealand, I could,
Yeah.
like at a diamond league, no, like
No chance.
unless you're Jakob and you're, you know, 5 seconds faster than most of the field, you're probably not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's it's like not taking the short term easy option. It's
yeah,
like hurt a little bit longer in the short term so that
yeah,
it's easier in the long term
yeah,
later in the race.
yeah. And I would actually love to see a bunch of regular people race a 1500 meters just with other
Yeah.
regular people because the tactics is it like it looks so simple. You're like, just get up to third and hold your position. But I'm like, I
Yeah.
think there's different challenges because I'm short as well, and so
Hmm.
I got the old stiff arm out sometimes and use that. I know I made a Kenyan dude go flying one time.
Whoops.
Just gave me and he just I
Yeah.
was like,
Fend
ooh,
them off.
almost got DQ'd for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you fend him off. Because sometimes they point, and actually, I went back and watched the race with my heat with Jakob because he was in my heat, and he was behind me with 300 to go, and he just
Mhm.
points, and people just let him out, and I'm just like, dude,
Really?
like they have so much respect for him. I'm like, mate, you're in a race,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
just block him in, like he's
Yeah,
another guy who's just going to take your spot, like,
exactly.
and
It's
so
it's an objective thing. You're not like after the race you can be mates, but this is
yeah,
your thing. Like,
yeah,
don't
like
you want to be
I
the
boxed him
best
in.
you can be? Yeah.
Yeah, I fully boxed him in. I was like, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
I can get in the inside, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is funny, but yeah, it was, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah. So it does get pretty physical, or it can get pretty physical
Yeah,
when you're in a group
definitely.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like say physical. It's not even like football or soccer. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing like that. But it's
Hmm.
physical in the sense that there is argy bargy, and you're kind of leaning. It's more like physical, like watching the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people will lean on you, and
Hmm.
if you're not strong enough to hold them up, and you're not practiced in the group, then
Yeah.
you can be a hazard to other people. And so whenever there's a new guy on the circuit, not that I was necessarily ever this guy because I feel like I've always been quite short and sturdy, but there's a couple of guys on tour who I won't mention. On tour, maybe not quite on tour. Who probably tour meaning Diamond League. There's
Yeah.
probably a couple of guys in the US circuit who you're like, stay away from that guy. He causes crashes.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, like they
because people
become
just
notorious. Like you just know them for that.
just like
Yeah.
runs with like just I can't say too much.
Yeah.
Just carelessness,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's almost like, mate, know your place, but
Yeah.
you can't really say that because you're racing. Like that's actually a good mindset to have. Just go hard, you know.
Mm.
And it's almost like I like to say there's two types of runners: dumb runners and then really smart runners. Like runners who do not use their brain at all, and then runners who like have the possibility of overthinking but can use it to their advantage sometimes.
Yeah. No one in the middle. You're one
Yeah,
or the other.
maybe I'm kind of in the middle, but because I'm like, I don't want to be like, yeah, I'm the smart guy.
Yeah, true.
But I'm definitely not a dumb runner. Like I definitely think
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Stay awake when you're running at least.
yeah.
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 I was going back to that podcast I listened of you last year. One thing that I found interesting you were chatting about was finding your limit, and I think it was specifically in regards to racing. But what does finding your limit in a race look like to you, and how do you know when you're getting close to that red line?
Oh, I literally can't answer that question. Find, because it's so well. There's a couple of things I can't answer the question. It's just in a roundabout way. Uh,
Yeah,
there's a couple of things in 1500, and the first thing is your fitness. Right, your limit changes depending on your fitness. And this year, I found out that what my limit was. I thought, yeah, that's still my limit, but because I wasn't in the same shape, often I crossed the line and I paid the price because I thought that was my limit again. And there's a couple of indicators on what you can kind of feel your limit, and one of them is the clock. So at Diamond Leagues and World Champs and stuff, there's always the clock every 100 meters, so you can look over and be like, and there's all this mental math going on in your head. And here's the dumb runner thing. I don't think those dumb runners know, and you can see a dumb runner run, um, because sometimes they will just go way too hard, and then just
yeah,
like
go
get
on.
smoked. And
Mm,
not Stewie. Stewie just goes hard, but he actually knows his limit really, really well, which is
yeah,
impressive. And so he just rides the line. Whereas I think it's almost instinctual knowing the line
mm,
of like there's a feeling that you kind of feel like actually this is a funny realization I've just had. It actually feels like you're sprinting. That's the line.
right.
It
Yeah,
feels like you're sprinting. And
damn.
as soon as you take your foot off the gas, you realize, oh, that was the line. But the difference is, I tell people this: there's not much difference between 3:35 and 3:30. The only difference
Mm,
is the guy who ran 3:35 probably took his foot off the gas when it hurt. The guy who runs
true.
3:30 didn't take his foot off the gas.
Yeah,
And so I was just like, that's literally the best way to do it. Like sometimes my races when I've run 3:31, I've borderline felt like I'm like hanging on for dear life. The thread is like the rubber band is about to break. That's how you
yeah,
know where you're on the limit. When you're feeling like you can't just comfortable, there's no comfort. There's no comfort at all of being on the back of someone. Generally, like if you're going for a run, you're running with someone and they're kind of pushing the pace. You're puffing, but you can stay on their shoulder.
hmm,
And then if they push the pace really hard and you start to be like, I'm getting dropped a little bit, that's
yeah,
the line.
yeah,
And when you're fit, that line's kind of you can hold the line longer. But when you're not
hmm,
fit, you actually cross the line, and then a couple minutes later or a minute later, you're just like
blow up.
you pay the price in a really hard way. I've had a couple of races where I've crossed the line real bad,
Yeah,
thinking I was actually fitter than I was, and then my last 100 meters I probably ran like 20 seconds.
yeah,
Like luckily I
damn.
don't have those videos on film, but
Yeah, yeah. Would
it's
you say that you would rather leave it out on the track like that, or would you say that that's like a dumb race, to use your word? Like, would you
nah.
rather blow up in the last 100 rather
Yeah.
than like crossing over the line and be like, oh, that was easy?
Yeah. Yeah, I yes, definitely. I think
Yeah,
I there's a couple of regretful races where I'm like, "Ugh, should have just pushed the boundaries a little more,
yeah,
especially when I was fit and I could have backed my fitness. So last year, the example I'm thinking of is at the semi final at World Champs. I crossed the line. I was like, that was the easiest race of my life. That was
mm,
unbelievably easy, and I didn't make it because
yeah,
I tactically just made an error where I know exactly the moment where I shouldn't have made that error, and it was purely a weakness in the of the mind decision of going I'm going to take that easy option when I should have taken the just stay wide and hold your
yeah,
position, because the guy who was on my shoulder made the final, but
yeah,
I was I think in better shape than him or this particular dude because I'd been beating him all season and my PB was still faster than his after the final. So it was
wow,
like, that it was
man,
definitely it was my race for the losing, and I lost it. Whereas there has been races like the repechage this year where
yeah,
I'm like, Craig just said, my coach just said, go for it, and get out hard and hold your position and do not let it go. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And so I held my position. I got up the front. I got on it, and I was like, as soon as I was in front of Ollie, and I was like, oh man, what have I done?
Yeah.
And so I it was very regretful, but um, it was good to know. Look, last year the pace wouldn't have bothered me.
Hmm.
This because I looked across, it was like 56 point. I'm like, I've gone out in 56 before and been totally fine. And
Yeah.
this year, so I wasn't freaking out completely, but then I was just gutted because my body wasn't in the same shape as it was last year. But I ran out and I crossed the line after the repechage. Obviously, heavily disappointed because I was like, I'm not making an Olympic semi-final or final, which was my goal. But I know that I literally did everything I possibly could to cross the line, or to make that semi-final. And so I was like, you know what? After 6 weeks of training to get to where I was from not running, that's pretty good effort. I gave it a freaking good crack,
It's
and
huge,
I'm
man.
proud of the effort that I gave. And that's really all I could ask for. As disappointing as the result was, and what I thought I was capable of, this year, it was a pretty, something I can be pretty proud of.
Absolutely, man. And there's such an interplay that you're getting at there between fitness and mindset. And
Mm,
it sounds like maybe the perfect race, if it exists, is your fitness and your mindset being at the same level. Like you
yeah,
talk about races there where your fitness was at its peak, but then your mindset wasn't there. Whereas
yeah,
like this time it's like maybe your fitness isn't quite there, but then your mindset's really strong. It's almost like the perfect combo is being able to get your fitness at its peak and then also your mindset or your strategy in the right place.
yeah. I think that's what differentiates the best guys in the world from the rest, is the guys who know their fitness and can adjust their mindset perfectly to
Mm,
that to make it
yeah.
work for their advantage. Because you could have the best mindset in the world. Like, often I feel like I've got a really strong mindset, but I don't adjust it to my fitness's ability, if that makes sense. Like,
Mm,
I'm like, I can be tough. I'm not going to get dropped. Um, and then I back myself, but I back myself in the wrong areas. Like, I back my kick, which is actually a
yeah.
stupid mindset to have, because if you're at the back, it doesn't matter if you back your kick or not. You can't
Yeah.
pass everyone.
Yeah, you can't
And
pass
it's
the whole
just like,
field. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like, yeah, backing my kick. I'm like, I can run the fastest 400-meter split. Like, who gives a crap? You're at the back.
yeah.
You can't pass 10 guys, man.
Yeah,
Like,
you got to get in the position first to then
yeah,
use that.
yeah, exactly. And so those guys are like, you could be less fit, but because you've mastered your mindset, you put yourself in the right spot, and you can actually make the most of your fitness, which is
Mm,
actually awesome to see. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's such an interesting sport, man. Like I knew there'd be some strategy to it, but I never knew like how many tactics and planning and positioning and go into it because
oh, it's
it's
nuts.
only a few minutes, but a lot can happen in that few minutes, right? And if you don't get yourself into a good position, exactly like you're saying there, yeah, you might have the best last 200 meters, but if you're at the back, you might get fifth. Whereas if you were
Yeah,
in fifth and then had the best last 200 meters, you could be on the podium.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
I mean, Cole Locker, right, with 200 meters to go, was in. Well, I guess he was in third or fourth. Anyway, comes up the inside, boom,
it's gone.
gold medal.
Damn, man.
Positioning.
Another thing I found quite interesting in that podcast is you were chatting about your training distances. And not that I know much about running, especially when it comes to 1500 meters, as I've said, but I kind of assumed that because you were only running 1500 meters, it's not a marathon, it's not an ultra distance, that you would focus more on high threshold, like spinning the legs around as quick as you can, not necessarily on, zone two, lots of mileage. But it actually is that. Like you were saying how sometimes you get up over 100k plus in a week. So can
Yeah.
you talk about your training a little bit and why it's beneficial for you as a 1500-meter runner to still be putting in that kind of mileage?
Yeah, I think firstly every 1500-meter run is different, but I think there's a couple of base principles that are quite relevant. And I think the breakdown is you need to have aerobic capacity to run any race because there's maybe not sprinting, but any middle distance or distance race, because there's always an element or a percentage of aerobic that is going to be in play at all times. And so I guess the higher your mountain or base of fitness is, the more capacity you have to work with. And then you've got your speed or your anaerobic stuff on top of that. And you can't be all anaerobic. You could be the fastest guy in the world, but if you've got no lactate tolerance or you've got no ability to run and clear lactate at any pace, then you're not going to be the best in the world. Like if you can't do that, that's a basic fundamental of 1500 meter running. I think the 1500 is probably one of the hardest races because it is aerobic and anaerobic for both. Like it's anaerobic for a long time.
Yeah.
Or
it's like short aerobic and long anaerobic.
Yeah, it's like scratching the. I think that's why it's so hard, because the 800, right? For someone like me, just feels like you're sprinting for 2 laps.
Yeah.
You just literally go out pretty much almost as hard as you can, and then you just got to keep going. And so, but there's that's why the 1500 is so hard, is because like what I was talking about before, that line is actually the line between aerobic and anaerobic. And you just you flicking in and out of it really, really delicately. And like you go too anaerobic, boom, stuffed. And so when it comes to training, like I need to do both. Obviously I do probably minimum 2 sessions a week. I do hills, quite a lot of hills. I don't know. Depends what other people do. I don't really know what other athletes do in terms of hills, but I do hills generally once a week. And that could be anything from like long hill efforts to hill sprints. And they say hills are speed in disguise. So instead of just doing speed work, you can do hills, which is replicating the same sort of training effect. But yeah, I started out as a junior, and you can run actually a good 1500 meters just off speed stuff. Because as a junior, I only ran 30 Ks a week, 50 Ks a week. I ran 3:38 as an 18-year-old off like 50 to 60 Ks a week, which is nothing. Yeah. Like that's like low 800 meter guy pace of training load.
Yeah.
But so as an 18-year-old, that was kind of freakish. I ran 3:31 off like 100 Ks a week, which is 100. Oh, I might be getting that wrong. I think it was about that. And that was still pretty low. Like a lot of the 1500 meter guys in the world are running 140, 160 K week on week.
That's insane to me. I honestly can't believe that.
Like it's so much mileage. Think about that. Like for most people, it's 20 Ks a day, half marathon every day. I did quite a big November last year, and I think this, I don't know, didn't play into injury, but it did play into it a little bit. There was all these girls on Instagram going, I did a half marathon. I was like, that's so awesome. And I really want to congratulate you. But I'm like, I've done a half marathon every day in November.
Every day.
I'm like, that's not that hard. Like,
damn,
one half, that's so cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
A little pity clap.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and it is awesome, because for some people, they don't run, right? Yeah. And so if it's a half marathon,
it's all perspective,
and
right?
It is still a long way. Like, even for me, if I had to go run 20K, 21K on a Sunday, I'm like, it's actually still a long run. And if you think about it in terms of minutes on the legs, it takes me a lot less time to run a half marathon than it does for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's not just an hour and a half jogging anymore. It's it's 2 hours plus.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's actually the thing that I should be like, oh wow, you've done a 2 hour 20
time
run.
on feet.
Like,
true.
That's a long run.
Yeah.
In 2 hours 20, I cover like 35K. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So where would your like, what kind of tools do you use when you're on those runs? Are you using your heart rate? Like, how do you know that you're running at the right pace, quote unquote, for those runs?
A little bit of everything, bit of intuition, a little bit of the coaches. Well, the coach programs a run for me, a distance and a time, which equates to a pace. And so I kind of use pace and distance and time all as like an approximate of like, I want to target I don't really necessarily target one. If I'm going to tell someone, oh, I've got to run today, I'll say, oh, I've got a 14K or I've got an hour.
Yeah.
Either or. If I run an hour, Craig will be happy. If I run 14K, he'll be happy. But I kind of use them both to gauge, all right, that's about the pace that I need to be running. Like
maybe like to put it into perspective so people actually know how quick you are. If you were to go, let's say a 10K run, like what would your pace be if you were just to go run a 10K? If Craig gave you 10K on your
45 minutes. I got 10K tomorrow, 45 minutes, 4:30s.
So 4:30s.
Yeah.
And then if you were to like send it, what do you think your pace would be for something like a 10K?
28 minutes. 28 something.
It's unreal.
Well, my training partner Hayden ran 28 minutes off the bike in triathlon. That's crazy.
So I never knew. Like I knew Hayden was a fast runner, and I knew that triathletes were fast runners. But
then you think, I was into track athletes, and you're like, nah, not comparable.
Yeah,
nah, they are just freaks.
That's the thing,
well,
man. Like,
Hayden and Alex are freaks. Everyone else still freakish, but like you're not running 28 something.
No,
like that's 28 off the bike after a hard swim and a 40K bike ride.
It's ridiculous, hey?
It literally blows my mind every time I think about it.
Yeah,
I'm like, I literally ran a workout, one of my first workouts back, and I think I had like an 8K tempo at like 3:05s or something. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I could go much faster than that. Today, I was kind of in the box. So yes, I was coming back from like a holiday, but I was like, oh, 3:05s actually felt real hard. Hayden's out here running like 2:40 something, and he's doing it for 10K after swimming and biking.
It's stupid, man. It wasn't until I chatted to him on the pod and, I was kind of asking similar questions. And he's like, yeah, if I was to just go out for a 5K, it'd probably be like 2:45 pace. I'm like, 2:45 pace? That's like a sprint for me. That is so fast. It's
probably faster than most people can sprint. That's the funny thing. Like, people go, all right, now go run as fast as you can. Like, literally, I don't think most people will have ever maxed out a treadmill at a regular gym, right?
No.
The funny thing is, and that most of them go 20Ks an hour. What is that? Like 12 miles an hour or something if you're American. And maybe you might get to 13. You're thinking you're cranking. The treadmill at the gym that I go to goes to 30. And I maxed it out the other day.
Wow,
I was like, come on, I can't even go fast in this thing. And the guys at the gym are going, like, don't you need your arms? Because I'm actually, because my Achilles is like not like 100%, so I did a workout on it. And I used the lever system, and my arms are like real tucked up here. And when you're sprinting, you're like usually out like this. I'm like
swings.
I'm like tucked, doing like 30Ks an hour.
It's like your morning jog.
And the guy at the gym goes, what the heck? Like, don't you need your arms? I'm like, no, my arms are still up high. I don't need them yet.
We're not going fast enough yet.
I'm not going fast enough there. Max out the gym. Like, come on, dumb thing, go faster.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I only recently got back into running in the past sort of year or so. So prior to that, I didn't know much about pacing. Like I used to run at high school, but you never have a smartwatch or anything at high school. Like I don't know.
Yeah, you just run hard and you get tired. Slow down.
Yeah, gas out, slow down when you can't run anymore. Yeah. And then, since like I've gotten back into it, it's so interesting learning more about pacing and just understanding how quick guys like you and Hayden and all these athletes are. It is just unreal, man. And would you say that you get that fast simply? Obviously, it's hard training, but it's time, like the amount of time that you've been doing it for.
Nah, it's genetics.
Yeah,
I got
all genetics and luck. Do you think it's just?
It's just honestly all genetics. Like it's funny because Hayden is like, it's actually blows my mind. Genetically, I will never be able to just threshold or tempo as good as Hayden. Because literally, his body doesn't produce as much lactic acid as mine. But there's a downside to that because he can't. I guess I don't know if this is physiologically correct wording, but he can't tap into his like ATP system as effectively as I can, and that essentially is the reason why I'm so fast and he is not. But he can hold that really fast speed for a really long time. Like I ran a K at altitude in 2:16,
Yeah.
and it was like pretty easy. But
2:16. What
Hayden,
altitude were you at there?
not high, just enough to hurt a little bit. But it was
Yeah.
like 1,100 meters or something. So I was
Yeah.
like technically not like altitude, but like you do reps at the track and you're like, yeah, it's definitely high
I
right
feel
now.
it. Yeah.
But anyway, Hayden might not be able to run 1K at 2:30. Like 2:30 might be as fast as K, but he could probably do 2K at 2:30.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, so he just wouldn't slow down. He would just be like, all right, 5 minutes, like with 2K. Like, what?
I wonder if it's maybe like a muscle fiber type difference. Like, so
Yeah.
if you had more fast twitch muscle fibers,
Oh yeah,
then you
sure.
could sustain that.
Yeah.
Whereas like with him with the lactate, yeah.
I mean, there's got to be.
Interesting.
There's got to be. I actually would love to talk to a sports scientist. I actually really enjoy talking to sports scientists on this sort of stuff, exercise physiologists, because they often have the answers to like why you can do this and your muscle fibers do this and whatever else. Like, I mean, there's obviously genetic. I actually cracked up so hard when I was watching Noah on the TV. He's like, I've just worked so hard to get here. I'm just the hardest working guy, whatever. I'm like, no, you're not. You're the most genetically talented guy here. It's literally the 100 meters. Like, you're the most fastest guy in the world because you're the most genetically blessed right now.
If you didn't have the muscles that you have, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, if you're a 10K guy or a marathoner, probably because you work the hardest.
Yeah.
Or like an Ironman athlete, probably because you work the hardest. Because I cannot fathom how many hours they spend training each week.
That's not like all genetic, but
it's like you're like, those guys are just fit, really, and fitness. And you're right in saying that time equals fitness, because this is what my coach always says. You can teach someone, because he's mostly a triathlon coach, I guess, or was. You can teach someone to swim and bike, but you cannot teach them to run. That's quite a like almost profound statement. Hey, you can teach someone to swim and bike, but you cannot teach them to run. You can teach someone to bike hard and be a really good biker because you can just chuck them on the bike and make them do hours and hours and hours of training, and they will get good. Then they will get strong and they will get fast. Whereas running, you can't make someone fast. You can get them faster, but you can't make them fast.
Yeah.
And literally, it shows because like I go to the gym and like plyos and stuff, all that sort of stuff's real easy for me. And then my wife, she doesn't like explosive exercises. Like, she's really strong, but she can't, like, explosive exercises just don't come naturally to her. Whereas anything explosive, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Because it
sounds so much like it could be related to like muscle fiber types and how responsive that it's almost like your passive system. Like you're using muscles, but it's like how elastic they are. Like how quickly can you bounce? And because plyo stuff is all about how little time you spend on the ground.
Yeah.
So if you're explosive, that's just like that's your bread and butter.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, man, my tendons are like going like stretched, about to just
elastic potential.
I was like, I'm either going to jump to the moon or pull a hammy. Like,
it's either way.
Either one. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap it up, I'm conscious of time. You do a lot of stuff outside of running. I understand you're quite into your extreme sports, from surfing to snowboarding. I see you pop some pretty mean manus in Croatia and stuff as well. And you're into your building. So what is, I don't know, maybe what does like your life pie look like if you were to sort of split it up into its different portions of like running, building, XYZ, whatever it may be?
That's a good question. It's split up. It changes throughout the year. I think this time of year, it's a lot more fun and hobbies. So it's like running literally is only, I'm only running once a day at the moment. And so usually you run
crack up that's nothing to you. I'm only running once a day. At the moment.
Well, I mean, it's like an hour a day. So it's still a long run. Like, I'm still covering a decent amount of mileage. But you just get up, run in the morning, and then you've got so many hours left to just do whatever you want to do, and then you recover while you sleep, right? So it's kind of like I've got a bit more flexibility, and so I don't know. I'm not going to break it into a percentage, but you can visualize what that pie would look like. And at the moment, I'm feeling it. I kind of this is a choice I've made, but I choose to skate. I used to skate heaps as a kid, but I skate kind of twice a year now on like actual skate. Like I'll go to the skate park, do some tricks, relearn all my tricks, and I relearn them all in one day, and then I skate another day and enjoy it, and then hopefully not hurt myself, and then I probably won't skate for the rest of the year. So like my progression's terrible. I was like really good when I was 10, and then it was just like yeah. Not that I started running when I was 10. It was actually pretty hard to progress at skating.
yeah.
I don't want to slam. But I guess the sports start really full this summer year, and as the season goes on, they get fewer and fewer. So to put in perspective, I have surfed. Well, it's been flat, so I've surfed once since I got home from Croatia, but I didn't surf since March. And surfing's probably like my most common. Like if I was to go, or kite surfing maybe. Kite surfing is probably my favorite sport. But is that blasphemous saying that on a run like a runner? Like,
no, we'll edit that out. Running is my favorite sport.
No, it's good. But I will go kiting and running and surfing as like a supplement to my training at a certain time of year. But I won't do like the risky things. So I probably won't go snowboarding and skating. And I probably won't play touch rugby. I love touch rugby. My mum grew up playing touch rugby. She was in a national team. Like I just love it. But I can't play it because I don't want to bust an ACL or something, and the risk is really high. So I often judge things throughout the year in terms of my pie by a risk versus reward factor. And I call it the fun factor. And essentially it's like, how much fun am I going to have compared to relative risk?
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so I told someone the other day, if I'm going kite surfing and I've got a big day of training, I'm like, it better be 25 to 30 knots and 1.5 meters swell, because I know that's going to be fun. A little bit risky, but a lot of fun, and a little bit of effort, but a lot of fun. Whereas I'm like, if it's only like 15 knots, like you're barely keeping this kite in the sky and you're having to work it real hard, it's going to be not that much fun and a lot of effort. So I'm just going to call it nah on that day. And so
not a good trade.
That's not a good trade, because you're going to feel crap in your run later, because there's always a trade-off, right? You do one run in the morning and you got to run in the evening. And if you kite in the middle of the day, your second run's going to feel like
that's a big day, man. Yeah.
And especially, it's actually a secret little cross-training thing of mine. My heart rate sits at about 155, 160 beats a minute when I'm kiting.
Damn.
Which is like fully aerobic exercise.
Yeah.
And so
that would be sustained too. Like how long would you kite for? Like
2 hours.
2 hours? Yeah.
I cover like 30K in 2 hours.
Wow.
On the water.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That sounds so much more fun than running for 2
so
hours.
much more fun than doing a 2 hour long run.
Yeah.
30K in 2 hours on the road and making sore legs, or 30Ks in the water just going, wow!
I'm vote for that.
So I'd always choose kiting, but obviously you have to run to be a runner.
Yes, true.
Actually, I'm on a side note because this is hilarious. People will love this. Chicken and rice, chicken and pasta. Sorry, dude. Chicken and rice.
That sounds like our conversation every night as well.
Mince
pasta, mince rice, chicken and pasta.
Anyway, Jakob, obviously Norway, New Zealand, was in the tent next to me at the Olympics. Yeah. And I look over at him and I go, yo, what's up, Jakob? And he just nods at me and he goes, did they not let you into Tahiti? Because the surfing was in Tahiti, right?
It was like Chopu.
And I was like, that's actually really good banter. That's actually funny ads.
That's good from you, man.
Yeah, I was like, you're not a robot. I like this guy. And so we had some good chats, but that was pretty funny. But yeah, I guess for me, kind of the circle, the pie gets broken up into a lot more recovery and running hours spent in the kind of key parts of the season.
Mhm.
And often and running will always come first. So if I know I've got a really big day, I won't go kiting or I won't go surfing, because no matter how pumping it is, I'm like, this is actually a key session. I need to feel good for this. Or
Yeah.
tomorrow morning is a key session, so I can't feel crap for that. It didn't used to be like that. I used to definitely be like fun, 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 fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's now I'm like, okay, it's my job. I should take it seriously, and so I've definitely got to that level in the career now, which is fortunate and unfortunate.
Yeah, and the fun stuff's always got to be there too, but you're only going to be at the top of your running game for so long, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Long game mentality.
exactly, bro. And you're into quite a few different creative kind of pursuits too. I see you're a pretty handy builder. You're just
Uh,
putting together a pretty sick surfboard now.
yeah.
So what are your creative outlets look like for you?
Um, I don't know many people know this. I'm a massive muso.
Are
Absolutely,
you?
I'm a bass player. I played the bass for.
Sick.
I got lessons for 13 years, and then I've carried on playing.
Damn,
Um,
13 years
yeah,
of lessons. That's a
yeah,
long time, man.
yeah. Well, it's good.
Nice.
I took music all through school. Did university. Couple of papers at the last year of high school or whatever, or university level. I don't know if it was actually a paper, but that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was quite cool. Just I love that. And so that's the muso side of me. But I've grown up with a dad who's an absolute genius. Just mind blowing genius. Like he's built everything. He's built a jet boat from scratch,
What?
trampolines. We've built
Damn.
caravans. I've built a caravan outside that Melissa and I go. We had our honeymoon in it
Yeah.
from scratch, and like literally trailer, but
That is
upwards.
so cool.
And so he's helped me do all that sort of stuff, and so that's kind of another creative outlet that I love. And then obviously like silly things like Instagram is, I guess that's actually creative. So I
Yeah.
haven't really acknowledged that that's a passion of mine, but no wonder I quite enjoy that sort of stuff because it comes through, I think, in my Instagram a little bit.
Yeah, I like the content you post is good, man. Like I've been
Oh,
following you
thanks.
for a while, and I enjoy your content. Like
Oh, great.
that Manu video of the underwater
Yeah,
versus like
wait,
on
that was
top.
actually cool.
That was sick. That was
I
really
did,
cool.
how cool is the
I,
water when it claps? I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
man. I was showing Chloe, my missus. I was like, "Look, this is what a Manu looks like." She's like, "Oh, do you extend when you go under
yeah, yeah.
the?" Yeah, yeah. It's like,
Oh, yeah, like it's like a good breakdown. I saw that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just said, Melissa, can you video underneath the water, see what it's like? She's like, yeah, okay. Just puts my phone underwater. I'm like,
yeah. Is
oh,
that your phone too?
that's my head.
Thought it
Yeah,
was like
bro,
a
it's just
GoPro or something.
iPhone
Shit.
13. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
risky.
yeah,
Yeah,
risky. That's all right. Worked.
yeah,
Still
man.
works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good, man. I like that.
Well, thanks, mate.
I think that might bring us to an end. We actually got through basically everything that I wanted to chat to you about,
Cool.
bro. And you speak so well too, by the way. That was
Oh,
such an
thanks, mate.
enjoyable conversation. That time flew.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're in an hour 12.
I know.
That
I
is good.
know.
We're on a half
Yeah.
marathon at that time.
Yeah, true. Once again, man, I genuinely appreciate your time. Like I said to you at the start, it's been so cool catching up with you. And if people do want to find you, Instagram's probably the best place, right?
Yeah. I think underscore Samuel Tanner, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that sounds right.
I think
Yeah.
that's it. But anyway, that's pretty much my only platform. I
Yeah.
have a TikTok account that I've used once. So they don't need to follow
Classic.
that.
Maybe YouTube could be your next platform.
Yeah. That'd be the platform to make money on, probably.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, stay
Long
tuned
form
to that.
YouTube videos are sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should
Just
actually
did
do that.
some
That'd be sick.
wheelies. I might actually start
Yeah.
doing wheelies everywhere.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if you can do wheelies on a mountain bike or a dirt
Yeah.
bike or anything, but the wheelie is the most satisfying thing to be able to accomplish. Like,
What do you think about a wheelie versus like doing a really long manual down a hill?
manual, that's even harder. That's even cooler.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You get that point right where you're not tipping backwards, you're not tipping
Oh,
forwards.
that's
You're like
so
defying
cool.
gravity.
And
Yeah, I've
that's
done
like, I'm still working on my manuals. I can do a really good wheelie, like
Yeah.
a K probably, just on the back wheel, couple
That's
corners.
impressive. Yeah.
But like as soon as you stop pedaling, it's like it's just the balance point's quite hard to just sit there. It's actually
Yeah.
probably hard to just trust yourself to use the back brake if you need it. because your butt's so far off the back of the stick standing up that it's like, oh. Like,
it's a bit sketchy. Am I going to break my tailbone?
yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, especially if you're clipped in, you know. You forgot.
Yeah, true. That's a different element to it.
Oh, I went mountain biking with a dude last week, and oh man, I forgot how much I love mountain biking. This kid that races downhill.
Oh,
Oh,
nuts.
I thought I was quite a good mountain biker and I was on, like, I've got a pretty nice mountain bike. I was following this dude and I was like, oh,
he's just gone.
He's just gone. Yeah. Like, and I could keep up with him on the straights, and surprisingly, I can keep up with him like over the drops and the jumps. But as soon as it comes to like the hairpin, like switchbacks and like technical rooty bits, I was like, bro, it's blowing me out of the water.
Yeah.
It was
unbelievable. So much of that is like how risk adverse you are too. Obviously, it's technically like you have to know how to do the thing.
Yeah.
But how much are you willing to like send it?
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing. I'm like, I'm going to Fiji in like 2 weeks. I can't exactly afford to break a collarbone.
Yeah, exactly. It's the collarbone like, or the shoulders, right? You don't want that.
Like, it's going to hurt. So I was just like, I think I'm going to have to let him go. So I still goes,
you win this one.
Yeah, you win this one, little bro. Yeah. But yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. All right. I better stop our recording.